Success is not casual, it's survival. Most people treat success like a hobby, something they pick up when they feel inspired and put down when life gets inconvenient. But success does not reward dabblers. Success demands hunger, urgency, and commitment. If you want it halfway, you will never have it at all. Think about the way we treat survival. If you were underwater, gasping for air, you wouldn't say, "I'll try to breathe tomorrow." You would fight with everything you had to reach the surface. That is the level of intensity success requires. Yet most people approach their goals with the energy of someone casually scrolling through their phone. The brutal truth is this: half-hearted effort leads to stagnation. It leads to regret. It leads to waking up years later wondering why life feels empty, why dreams never came true, why opportunities slipped away. Comfort feels safe in the moment, but it is the silent killer of ambition. I remember a time when I treated success like an option. I told myself I'd work hard when the timing was right. I convinced myself that small bursts of effort were enough. But every year that passed, I stayed stuck. My dreams didn't move forward. My confidence shrank. My hunger dulled. And the worst part? I thought I was doing enough. That illusion kept me trapped. Contrast that with the moment I finally snapped. I realized that if I didn't change, I would live the rest of my life in mediocrity. That realization hit me like a punch in the chest. Suddenly, success wasn't about luxury or recognition. It was about survival. It was about proving to myself that I could rise above fear, excuses, and stagnation. This is the mindset shift I want you to feel right now. Success is not a casual pursuit. It is not something you chase when convenient. It is survival. It is oxygen. It is the difference between living fully and merely existing. Look around at the people who inspire you. They didn't get there by dabbling. They didn't get there by treating success like a hobby. They got there because they were hungry. They got there because they refused to settle for halfway. They understood that comfort is the enemy, and they chose the hard path. So ask yourself, are you dabbling or are you surviving? Are you treating success like a side project or are you fighting for it like your life depends on it? Because the truth is, your life does depend on it. Not in the sense of physical survival, but in the sense of living a life of meaning, fulfillment, and freedom. The comfort of mediocrity whispers promises of safety. It tells you that staying where you are is easier. But mediocrity is a slow death. It robs you of passion. It robs you of growth. It robs you of the fire that makes life worth living. On the other side of hunger, however, is freedom. When you commit fully, when you treat success like survival, you unlock a power inside yourself that you didn't know existed. You stop waiting for the right time. You stop making excuses. You stop dabbling, and you start living with urgency, clarity, and unstoppable drive. Here's a simple exercise to begin this journey. Write down one area of your life where you've been dabbling. Maybe it's your career, your health, your relationships, or your personal growth. Be brutally honest. Then ask yourself, if this were survival, if this were oxygen, how would I act differently? That question alone can ignite a fire inside you. This introduction is not meant to comfort you. It is meant to wake you up. It is meant to shake you out of the illusion that success can be wanted halfway. Because halfway is failure. Halfway is regret. Halfway is mediocrity dressed up as effort. From this moment forward, I want you to see success as survival. I want you to feel the urgency of hunger. I want you to understand that comfort is the enemy, and hunger is the only way. This is the brutal truth about success. And if you embrace it, if you let it sink into your bones, you will never look at your goals the same way again. You will stop dabbling. You will stop waiting. You will stop living halfway. You will fight. You will rise. You will survive. And in that survival, you will finally succeed. The prison of procrastination. Procrastination feels safe, but it is a silent killer of dreams. It disguises itself as rest, as planning, as waiting for the perfect moment. Yet, underneath that disguise, procrastination is nothing more than hesitation chained to fear. It whispers, "You'll start tomorrow," but tomorrow never comes. Think about the times you've delayed something important. Maybe it was starting a fitness routine, applying for a new job, or finally working on that passion project. At first, the delay feels harmless. You tell yourself you're just waiting for the right timing. But weeks turn into months, and months into years. Suddenly, the dream that once felt alive begins to fade into regret. The false comfort of procrastination is seductive. It tells you that staying still is safer than moving forward. It convinces you that avoiding action protects you from failure. But here's the brutal truth. Procrastination doesn't protect you. It imprisons you. It locks you in a cell where fear grows stronger and confidence grows weaker. I remember a time when I kept postponing a big decision. I wanted to launch a project that mattered deeply to me, but I kept saying, "I'll start when I have more money, more time, more clarity." Every excuse felt reasonable, but the longer I waited, the heavier the fear became. The project didn't move forward, and my belief in myself shrank. I wasn't protecting myself. I was suffocating my own potential. Contrast that with the moment I finally took action. I didn't have perfect clarity. I didn't have all the resources, but I decided to move anyway. That single step broke the chains of hesitation. Suddenly, momentum appeared. Confidence grew. Fear shrank. And I realized something powerful. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. This is the freedom of immediate action. When you act, even imperfectly, you unlock energy that procrastination steals. You discover that progress is not about waiting for the right time. It's about creating the right time through movement. Think of a car stuck in the mud. If you sit inside waiting for the ground to dry, you'll stay stuck forever. But if you press the accelerator, even slowly, the wheels begin to turn. The mud loosens. The car moves. That's what action does. It creates momentum where none existed. Procrastination, on the other hand, is like keeping the car parked, convincing yourself that waiting is safer. But the longer you wait, the deeper the mud becomes. The harder it is to move, the more trapped you feel. Here's the contrast you must see clearly. Hesitation chains you to fear, while decisive steps unlock freedom. Fear thrives in stillness. Action starves fear. Every time you move forward, even in small ways, you weaken the grip of procrastination. Let's make this practical. Take one goal you've been delaying. Write it down. Then ask yourself, what is the smallest step I can take today? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Maybe it's sending an email, making a phone call, or writing the first page. That small step is the key that unlocks the prison door. Because here's the truth. Procrastination is not about laziness. It's about fear. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of not being good enough. But fear loses its power when you act. Fear cannot survive in motion. Think of someone you admire. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They acted in the middle of uncertainty. They moved forward despite fear. That's why they succeeded. And that's why you can too. The prison of procrastination is built on illusions. It tells you that waiting is wise, but waiting only deepens regret. It tells you that hesitation is safe, but hesitation only strengthens fear. The freedom of immediate action, however, is real. It gives you clarity, confidence, and progress. So the choice is yours. Stay in the prison or step into freedom. Stay chained to hesitation or unlock momentum with decisive steps. Here's a simple exercise to break free. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Pick one task you've been avoiding. Commit to working on it for just those 5 minutes. You'll be amazed at how quickly momentum builds once you start. Often, the hardest part is not the work itself, it's beginning. Procrastination feels safe, but it is the slow death of dreams. Immediate action feels risky, but it is the birth of freedom. Don't wait for the right time. Create it. Don't let hesitation chain you to fear. Break the lock with action. Because every moment you delay, your dream fades. And every moment you act, your dream comes alive. Fear of failure versus fear of regret. Fear of failure paralyzes millions of people every single day. It whispers in our ears, telling us not to try, not to risk, not to step outside the safety of what we already know. And yet, the greater danger is not failure itself, it is regret. Regret is heavier than failure. Regret lingers for a lifetime, while failure is temporary. Think about the pain of trying and stumbling. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it bruises your ego. But that pain fades. You learn, you grow, you adapt. Contrast that with the torment of never daring. That emptiness stays with you. It gnaws at your heart when you look back and realize you never gave yourself a chance. I remember a friend who dreamed of starting his own business. He had the skills, the passion, and the vision. But fear of failure kept him frozen. He told himself, "What if I lose money? What if people laugh at me? What if I fail?" So he stayed in his safe job. Years passed, and every time we spoke, he carried a quiet sadness. He didn't fail. He regretted never trying. That regret became his prison. Now contrast that with another story. A woman I knew launched her project with almost no resources. She stumbled, she made mistakes, she faced setbacks. But every failure taught her something. Every stumble gave her strength. And eventually, she built something extraordinary. She didn't escape failure, she transformed it into fuel. And because she dared, she lived without regret. This is the contrast you must see clearly. The pain of failure is sharp but short-lived. The pain of regret is dull but endless. Failure teaches. Regret torments. Failure builds resilience. Regret erodes your spirit. Fear of failure often comes from imagining the worst-case scenario. We picture humiliation, loss, rejection. But here's the truth. Those outcomes are survivable. You can recover from a failed attempt. You can rebuild after rejection. You can learn after loss. What you cannot recover from is the time wasted never daring. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite fear. When you act with courage, fear becomes fuel. It sharpens your focus. It pushes you to prepare. It reminds you that what you're doing matters. Avoidance, on the other hand, breeds emptiness. It leaves you with nothing but what-ifs. Here's a simple exercise. Write down one dream you've been avoiding because of fear. Then ask yourself, if I try and fail, what's the worst that could happen? And if I never try, what's the regret I'll carry? You'll often find that the regret is far heavier than the failure. Think of the people at the end of their lives who say their biggest regrets are not the things they tried and failed, but the things they never attempted. That truth should shake you awake. Because right now, you have a choice. You can let fear of failure paralyze you, or you can choose courage and avoid regret. Failure is feedback. It shows you what doesn't work. It guides you toward what does. Regret is silence. It offers no lessons, no growth, no second chances. Which one would you rather carry? The next time fear of failure rises, remind yourself, failure is temporary, regret is forever. Failure is a bruise, regret is a scar. Failure is a teacher, regret is a thief. So step forward, dare boldly, risk stumbling, because even if you fall, you will rise stronger. And most importantly, you will live free of regret. Fear of failure paralyzes millions, but courage transforms fear into fuel. Avoidance breeds emptiness, but daring creates fulfillment. Choose courage. Choose action. Choose a life without regret. Self-doubt, the enemy within. Self-doubt is the quiet voice that tells you you're not enough. It whispers lies that keep you small, convincing you that your dreams are too big, your abilities too weak, and your chances too slim. And if you listen to that voice, it becomes a prison. A prison built not of walls, but of words. Negative self-talk is powerful because it feels believable. You hear it in your own mind, so you assume it must be true. I'm not ready. I'll embarrass myself. I'll fail. These thoughts chain you down, keeping you from even trying. But here's the truth. Self-doubt is not reality. It's fear disguised as logic. I remember a young man who wanted to become a public speaker. He had passion, he had stories, but every time he stood in front of a crowd, his inner critic screamed, "You're not good enough." For years, he avoided opportunities. He stayed small. But one day, he decided to act anyway. He spoke, voice trembling, hands shaking. And though it wasn't perfect, he realized something powerful. Confidence is not born, it's built. Contrast that moment with the years he spent trapped in silence. In silence, his self-doubt grew stronger. In action, his self-doubt weakened. That's the liberation of belief. When you act despite the lies, you prove them wrong. Self-doubt thrives in stillness. It grows when you hesitate, when you avoid, when you hide. But belief grows in motion. Every step you take, every risk you embrace, every challenge you face builds confidence brick by brick. Think of ordinary people who shattered their inner critic. A mother who doubted she could return to school after years away, yet graduated with honors. A worker who doubted he could lead a team, yet became a respected manager. These stories remind us that confidence is not a gift, it is a skill. And like any skill, it is forged through practice, repetition, and relentless action. Here's the contrast you must see. The prison of negative self-talk keeps you small, but the liberation of belief expands your world. Self-doubt says, "Don't try." Belief says, "Try and you'll grow." Self-doubt says, "You'll fail." Belief says, "Even if you fail, you'll rise stronger." Here's a simple exercise. Write down 3 lies your self-doubt tells you. Then, next to each one, write a truth. For example, "I'm not ready" becomes, "I'll never be ready until I start." "I'll fail" becomes, "Failure is feedback, not the end." This practice rewires your mind, replacing chains with keys. Confidence is not about never hearing the voice of doubt. It's about refusing to obey it. It's about choosing belief over fear, action over hesitation, growth over stagnation. The enemy within will always whisper, but you have the power to answer back. You have the power to act anyway. You have the power to build confidence through relentless action. Self-doubt whispers lies that keep people small. Belief shouts truths that set people free. Choose belief. Choose action. Choose liberation. The mindset shift. From victim to warrior. Many people live as victims of circumstance, believing life is something that happens to them rather than something they can shape. They blame luck, timing, or other people for their struggles. They wait passively, hoping things will change, but the truth is that victimhood keeps them stuck. It is a mindset of surrender, a belief that they are powerless. Contrast that with the warrior mentality. A warrior does not wait for perfect conditions. A warrior takes ownership, even in the face of difficulty. A warrior sees obstacles not as walls, but as stepping stones. This shift, from victim to warrior, is the difference between weakness and resilience, between stagnation and growth. I remember a man who lost his job unexpectedly. At first, he fell into victimhood. He blamed the economy, his boss, and bad luck. He spent months waiting for something to change. But nothing did. His life felt smaller, his confidence weaker. Then one day, he decided to shift his mindset. He stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, What can I do now? That single question transformed his path. He retrained, built new skills, and eventually launched a career he loved. His obstacle became his stepping stone. This is the power of the warrior mentality. Victimhood says, I can't. Warrior mentality says, I will find a way. Victimhood waits. Warrior mentality acts. Victimhood sees obstacles as proof of weakness. Warrior mentality sees obstacles as opportunities to grow stronger. Think of life as a battlefield. The victim stands still, hoping the storm will pass. The warrior moves forward, shield in hand, ready to adapt. The storm doesn't disappear, but the warrior grows through it. That growth is resilience. That resilience is success. Here's the contrast you must see clearly. Passive waiting versus active ownership. Passive waiting leaves you powerless. Active ownership gives you control. Passive waiting keeps you stuck in fear. Active ownership builds confidence and momentum. Ordinary people make this shift every day. A single mother who once felt trapped by her circumstances chose to see herself as a warrior. She worked tirelessly, built a business, and created a better life for her children. A student who once blamed teachers for his failures chose to take ownership, studied harder, and became the first in his family to graduate. These stories remind us that warrior mentality is not reserved for heroes. It is available to anyone willing to shift their mindset. Here's a practical exercise. Write down one area of your life where you feel like a victim. Maybe it's your career, your health, or your relationships. Then ask yourself, what would a warrior do here? Write down 3 actions, no matter how small, that a warrior would take. Then commit to one of them today. This exercise transforms weakness into resilience, turning obstacles into stepping stones. The victim mindset is heavy. It drains energy. It keeps you stuck in blame and excuses. The warrior mindset is light. It energizes you. It pushes you to act, to grow, to fight for your future. Remember this, you cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. Victims surrender. Warriors respond with courage. Victims wait for change. Warriors create change. The shift is not about denying hardship. It is about refusing to be defined by it. It is about choosing strength over weakness, ownership over blame, resilience over surrender. So ask yourself, are you living as a victim, or are you ready to become a warrior? Are you waiting for life to change, or are you ready to change your life? The mindset shift is the turning point. It is the moment you stop blaming and start owning. It is the moment you stop waiting and stop acting. It is the moment you stop seeing obstacles as barriers and start seeing them as stepping stones. Victimhood keeps you small. Warrior mentality makes you unstoppable. Choose the warrior. Choose resilience. Choose ownership. Because when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. The power of daily rituals. Success is not built in grand gestures. It is built in the quiet, consistent rituals that shape your days. The truth is, the way you live each morning sets the tone for your entire life. Chaotic mornings breed stagnation, while disciplined routines create unstoppable momentum. Think about how most people start their day. They wake up late, rush through breakfast, scroll through their phones, and stumble into work already drained. That chaos becomes the rhythm of their lives. They feel stuck, unfocused, and reactive. Contrast that with someone who begins the day with intention. They rise early, reflect, practice gratitude, and focus on their priorities. That discipline builds clarity, energy, and progress. Daily rituals are the invisible architecture of breakthrough. They may seem small, but they compound over time. A few minutes of reflection each morning can sharpen your mind. A habit of gratitude can shift your perspective from scarcity to abundance. Focused work in short, consistent bursts can build achievements that once felt impossible. I remember a time when my mornings were chaotic. I woke up late, checked emails first thing, and felt behind before the day even began. My goals stayed blurry, my energy low. But when I committed to a simple ritual, waking up earlier, journaling for 5 minutes, and listing my top 3 priorities, everything changed. My days felt lighter, my focus sharper, and my progress steady. This is the contrast you must see. Chaos drains momentum. Discipline creates it. Chaos leaves you reactive. Discipline makes you proactive. Chaos keeps you stuck. Discipline moves you forward. Ordinary people transform their lives through rituals. A teacher who begins each day with gratitude finds strength in challenges. An entrepreneur who dedicates the first hour to focused work builds businesses brick by brick. A parent who sets aside time for reflection becomes more patient and present. These are not grand gestures. They are small, consistent choices that create extraordinary results. Here's a simple exercise. Design your morning ritual. Choose 3 practices that energize you. It could be journaling, stretching, reading, or planning your priorities. Commit to them daily, even if only for 10 minutes. Over time, those rituals will become the foundation of your success. Remember this: success is not about intensity once in a while. It is about consistency every day. Rituals are the bridge between who you are now and who you want to become. So ask yourself, are your days built on chaos or discipline? Are your mornings draining you or fueling you? The answer will shape your future. Success is not built in grand gestures. It is built in daily rituals. Choose discipline. Choose consistency. Choose the invisible architecture of breakthrough. Stories of breakthrough. Rising from rock bottom. Nothing resonates more than real transformation. When we hear stories of people who faced crushing setbacks yet rose stronger, we see ourselves in their struggles. We feel their pain, but we also feel their triumph. And in that contrast between despair and victory, we discover the truth. Pain can be the birthplace of resilience. Let me share a story about a man who lost everything. He had built a business over 10 years, pouring his heart and soul into it. Then, almost overnight, the market shifted, and his company collapsed. He lost his income, his confidence, and his sense of identity. For months, he lived in despair, questioning his worth. But instead of staying down, he chose to rise. He studied new skills, rebuilt his network, and launched a new venture. That second business grew even stronger than the first. His failure became the foundation of his breakthrough. Contrast his despair with his triumph. In despair, he felt powerless. In triumph, he felt unstoppable. In despair, he saw himself as broken. In triumph, he saw himself as resilient. That transformation was not born from comfort. It was born from pain. Another story comes from a woman who battled addiction. For years, she felt trapped, ashamed, and hopeless. She lost relationships, opportunities, and nearly her health. Rock bottom was her reality. But one day, she decided to fight. She sought help, embraced discipline, and rebuilt her life step by step. Today, she mentors others, turning her darkest chapter into a source of light. Her pain became her purpose. This is the emotional arc we must understand. Despair is not the end. It is the beginning of resilience. Triumph is not born in easy times. It is forged in struggle. Think about your own life. Maybe you've faced setbacks that felt unbearable. Maybe you've lost a job, a relationship, or a dream. In those moments, it's easy to believe you're finished. But the truth is, those moments are opportunities. They are the soil where resilience grows. Here's the contrast you must see. Avoidance breeds emptiness, but courage transforms pain into fuel. When you run from struggle, you stay stuck. When you face it, you grow stronger. Ordinary people rise from rock bottom every day. A student who failed exams repeatedly chose not to quit. He studied harder, sought guidance, and eventually graduated. A parent who lost everything in a financial crisis rebuilt slowly, teaching their children the value of perseverance. These stories remind us that resilience is not reserved for the extraordinary. It is available to anyone who refuses to stay down. Here's a practical exercise. Write down one setback you faced. Then, list 3 lessons it taught you. Ask yourself, how can I use these lessons as fuel for my future? This reframes pain as power, turning despair into the foundation of triumph. Pain is heavy, but it is also transformative. It strips away illusions, forcing you to discover your true strength. It teaches you humility, patience, and grit. And when you rise from it, you rise with wisdom that comfort could never give. Remember this: rock bottom is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the place where you decide whether to surrender or to fight. It is the place where resilience is born. So ask yourself, will you let despair define you, or will you let it refine you? Will you stay down, or will you rise stronger? The stories of breakthrough remind us that triumph is possible. They remind us that resilience is forged in struggle. They remind us that pain can be the birthplace of greatness. Despair feels like darkness, but triumph is the light that follows. Despair feels like the end, but triumph is the new beginning. Despair feels like weakness, but triumph reveals strength. Choose to rise. Choose to transform your pain into power. Choose to see your struggles not as chains, but as stepping stones. Because when you rise from rock bottom, you don't just survive, you inspire. You show others that despair can become triumph, that pain can become resilience, that rock bottom can become the foundation of greatness. And in that rise, you discover the truth. Your struggles are not the end of your story. They are the beginning of your breakthrough. Comfort versus growth. Choosing the hard path. Comfort is the enemy of progress. It feels safe, it feels familiar, and it whispers promises of ease. But comfort is deceptive. It lulls you into stagnation, convincing you that staying where you are is enough. Growth, on the other hand, is uncomfortable. It demands effort, risk, and sacrifice. Yet, it is in that discomfort where strength, clarity, and success are forged. Picture yourself lying on a soft pillow of excuses. It feels good in the moment. You tell yourself, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'm fine where I am." That pillow keeps you warm, but it also keeps you stuck. Contrast that with the hard path, the road filled with challenges, sweat, and struggle. It doesn't feel easy, but every step builds resilience. Every obstacle sharpens your focus. Every hardship strengthens your spirit. I remember a time when I chose comfort over growth. I stayed in a job that didn't inspire me because it was safe. I avoided risks because they felt scary. But the longer I stayed comfortable, the smaller my world became. My dreams faded, my confidence weakened, and my life felt stagnant. Comfort was not protecting me, it was suffocating me. Then came the moment I chose the hard path. I stepped into uncertainty, took risks, and embraced challenges. It was uncomfortable, but it was exhilarating. I discovered strengths I didn't know I had. I found clarity in the struggle. And most importantly, I grew. That growth gave me freedom. The freedom to live fully, to pursue my dreams, to become more than I once believed possible. This is the contrast you must see clearly. The seductive ease of staying safe versus the exhilarating freedom of growth. Comfort feels good now but costs you later. Growth feels hard now but rewards you forever. Comfort keeps you small. Growth makes you unstoppable. Ordinary people make this choice every day. A student who once avoided challenges chose the hard path of studying relentlessly and became the first in their family to graduate. An athlete who once stayed comfortable chose the hard path of training through pain and became a champion. A parent who once feared change chose the hard path of rebuilding after loss and created a stronger future for their children. These stories remind us that growth is not found in ease, it is found in effort. Here's a practical exercise. Write down one area of your life where you've been choosing comfort. Maybe it's avoiding a tough conversation, delaying a dream, or staying in a safe routine. Then ask yourself, what is the hard path here? Write down one action that feels uncomfortable but will lead to growth. Commit to taking that step today. Comfort is seductive because it feels like rest. But true rest comes after effort, not before it. True fulfillment comes after growth, not in avoidance. The hard path may be steep, but it leads to the summit. The comfortable path may be smooth, but it leads nowhere. Remember this: success is not built in comfort. It is built in discomfort. It is built in the moments when you choose growth over ease, effort over excuses, courage over fear. So ask yourself, are you lying on the soft pillow of excuses? Or are you walking the hard road of growth? Are you choosing safety that keeps you small, or discomfort that makes you strong? Comfort is the enemy of progress. Growth is the path to freedom. Choose the hard path. Choose strength. Choose clarity. Choose success. Action over excuses. The brutal call to arms. Excuses are the language of stagnation. They sound reasonable, they feel comforting, and they give us permission to stay still. But excuses are nothing more than chains disguised as logic. They paralyze us, keeping us trapped in rationalized failure. Action, on the other hand, is liberation. It is the force that breaks excuses apart and builds momentum toward success. Think about the excuses we often tell ourselves. I don't have enough time. I'll start when I feel ready. I need more resources. These phrases feel safe, but they are lies. They are masks we wear to avoid discomfort. The truth is, success is never about perfect timing. Success is about imperfect, consistent movement forward. I remember a time when I delayed pursuing a dream because I kept telling myself I wasn't ready. I convinced myself that waiting was wise. But waiting only made me weaker. My confidence shrank, my opportunities slipped away, and my dream grew distant. The excuses felt protective, but they were poison. Contrast that with the moment I finally acted. I didn't have clarity. I didn't have certainty, but I moved anyway. That imperfect action created momentum. It gave me confidence. It opened doors I didn't even know existed. The excuses vanished the moment I chose movement. This is the brutal truth. Excuses keep you powerless, while action makes you unstoppable. Excuses paralyze. Action liberates. Excuses rationalize failure. Action creates success. Ordinary people confront their excuses every day. A student who once said, "I'm not smart enough," chose action, studied harder, and graduated. An entrepreneur who once said, "I don't have enough money," chose action, started small, and built a thriving business. A parent who once said, "I don't have time," chose action, carved out minutes each day, and transformed their health. These stories remind us that excuses are illusions, while action is reality. Here's the contrast you must see clearly. Excuses feel safe but keep you stuck. Action feels risky but moves you forward. Excuses drain energy. Action builds energy. Excuses keep you small. Action makes you grow. Here's a practical exercise. Write down 3 excuses you've been using. Then, next to each one, write a small action you can take today to break it. For example, "I don't have time" becomes, "I'll wake up 20 minutes earlier." "I'm not ready" becomes, "I'll start with one small step." This exercise transforms excuses into action, stagnation into progress. Remember this: success is not about waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment doesn't exist. Success is about creating momentum through imperfect, consistent steps. Excuses are heavy. They weigh you down. They keep you chained to fear. Action is light. It lifts you up. It frees you from hesitation. So ask yourself, are you speaking the language of stagnation, or are you living the language of action? Are you rationalizing failure, or are you creating success? The brutal call to arms is this: stop making excuses. Stop waiting. Stop rationalizing. Choose action. Choose movement. Choose progress. Because every excuse you make is a step backward, and every action you take is a step forward. Excuses are the language of stagnation. Action is the language of success. Choose action. Choose liberation. Choose the brutal call to arms. Hunger is the only way. The journey ends with a brutal reminder: success cannot be wanted halfway. Halfway effort, halfway commitment, halfway hunger, it all leads to the same place: regret. Comfort may feel safe in the moment, but it is the slow decay of your potential. Hunger, on the other hand, is the fire that drives greatness. Hunger is the force that pushes you beyond excuses, beyond fear, beyond mediocrity. Think about the contrast. Comfort whispers, "Stay here, it's easier." Hunger shouts, "Move forward, it's worth it." Comfort keeps you small, trapped in routines that never change. Hunger expands your world, forcing you to grow, to fight, to rise. Comfort leads to decay. Hunger leads to greatness. I remember the moment I realized this truth. I had been chasing success casually, treating it like a hobby. I wanted results without sacrifice. But the more I stayed comfortable, the more stagnant I became. My dreams faded, my confidence weakened, and my life felt hollow. Then, hunger hit me. I realized that if I didn't commit fully, I would lose everything that mattered. That hunger became my turning point. This is the challenge I leave with you. Embrace discomfort. Silence fear. Commit fully to your vision. Success is not about dabbling. It is about survival. It is about wanting success as badly as you want to breathe. Ordinary people prove this every day. A worker who once settled for comfort chose hunger, worked relentlessly, and built a career that changed their life. An athlete who once avoided pain chose hunger, trained through exhaustion, and became a champion. A parent who once feared change chose hunger, rebuilt after loss, and created a stronger future for their children. These stories remind us that greatness is not reserved for the extraordinary. It is reserved for the hungry. Here's a practical exercise. Write down one dream you've been treating casually. Then ask yourself, what would it look like if I wanted this with hunger? Write down 3 actions that reflect full commitment. Then take one of those actions today. Hunger is not about words. It is about movement. Remember this: success cannot be wanted halfway. Halfway is failure. Halfway is regret. Halfway is mediocrity dressed up as effort. Hunger is the only way. Hunger is the force that transforms fear into fuel, obstacles into opportunities, and dreams into reality. So ask yourself, are you living in comfort, or are you living with hunger? Are you choosing decay, or are you choosing greatness? The answer will shape your future. Comfort leads to decay. Hunger leads to greatness. Choose hunger. Choose commitment. Choose the life you were meant to live. Because when you embrace hunger, you don't just survive, you thrive. You don't just dream, you achieve. You don't just exist, you live fully, fiercely, and without regret. Hunger is the only way.